Hey there. So today I thought I would go over a couple client websites that I've designed in the past. I just thought it would be fun to kind of go over it and talk a little bit about the design and why I did things a certain way and anything we might have chatted about with the client throughout the process and yeah, just talk about the design a little bit. So this first website is for a client, Hayley Carr. I did it maybe last month, I think it was. This is a long form sales page for her program, The Fair Salon. So I did the logo for this a while ago. And yeah, she basically just wanted an entirely new sales page, which is amazing because I love doing sales pages. I don't know what it is. I think it's because there is just so much content on them, especially these long form sales pages for the big high end, high ticket programs. You kind of need a long form sales page to really explain what it is you're doing, tell people what they get. It kind of requires a bit more content than a really short product page. I think I find them really fun to design because you just have to be so creative with the entire layout. There's just so much content. You have to you can't just copy and paste it all in there. You have to find ways to put in images and break up the content and put in icons and all this kind of shit. So it's kind of fun to do them. It's probably my favorite thing to design these days. So yeah, we can go through it a little bit. Also, just for context, so I didn't design any of Hayley's other branding or her website or anything. So I was kind of just going on what she already has. She also sent me a whole folder of stock photos that she has already used, and she had already edited them to her brand, and they were actually really good. In the past, if other clients have sent me photos that were way too edited or they just weren't right, I would say that. But Hayley is someone who knows her brand pretty well, so she had a whole folder of stock photos that she wanted to use. She also had a full photo shoot that she did with her photographer, that she sent me all of those. So I had this project was amazing because it was so easy to pull it all together. The other thing I will say overall about Hayley's branding that I mentioned to her at the time was that the vibe of her whole brand is I never want it to feel like it's trying too hard or that there's too much shit going on. It's very kind of simple, clean, classy, badass. What you see is what you get kind of thing. So I didn't want to do a ton of layers and tons of photos and just too much shit going on. I really wanted to focus on really clean text and just for it to feel very fresh and some cool photos and overall just pretty clean. So that's kind of the vibe I went for. Some of my other work is very layered and there's a lot more going on, but I liked this project because it was quite simple, but it's still so long that I still had to be creative with how I did some of the layouts. So yeah, I'll just kind of scroll through and mention as I go. So yeah, she had the photography is a huge part of most of my work. So the fact that she had a full-on photo shoot and everything that I could pull from is literally the dream situation. I like using handwriting throughout a lot of my work. This is my handwriting. I don't really like using handwritten fonts. I've never found one that I like. I think they all just don't look good in my opinion. But yeah, so that was another thing, because this page is very simple, I think the handwriting does kind of break it up a bit from just fonts and feeling too a bit boring. So yeah, definitely we did this in Squarespace. Pretty much all of my projects these days are in Squarespace. So I love using the image layout blocks, which are now going to be changing with the new update for Squarespace, but that's a different story. But just like these little features where you can have like a image and then like the text box and kind of layer them a little bit. It just makes it more interesting. So I think originally this whole section, like from the breakdown all the way down to this, is one section. And this like comes to me like literally as a Google Doc. So I'm like, have to figure out how to do all of this. So like stuff like this where there's like a list of things, like if it's an even number of things. So I was like, okay, there's 4 things, so that can easily put into like a 4-column situation. I could also put images or icons above these if I wanted to add a little more interest here. But I said to Hayley, there is a couple spots on this page that we use icons, but there was also one thing I said to her. I was like, I don't want to overdo it with icons, because icons can just look so fucking tacky so quickly. And when I get to them, you'll see there's some I found on the Noun project from the same artist, and they're just really cool. They just don't look boring and like standard like icons. So anyway, this whole this is all one section. So I was like, okay, that can easily be 4 columns, because there was like 4 pieces of content. Come down here, this kind of was like a section in itself. We can break that up. Another thing that I kind of like doing is like playing with the width of the content. So like we start out pretty wide here because we need that width of the 4 columns, otherwise it'd be too squished. Keep this pretty wide, and then we bring it in because this section is quite short. So like when we scroll down, I mean, I'm on a 15-16 inch laptop, so this is how it looks for me, but in general this whole section probably will be visible for anyone unless you're on mobile or whatever. But I feel like that was kind of nice because it just gives it so much white space. You can see everything, and you're not like scrolling, because sometimes obviously when you bring the width in, it's going to make everything go longer. So I just felt like that was kind of a nice balance and like switch up of the content to make it just more interesting. And then down here we have this section. I think this is using I think it's called the overlap image block or something, where it's got this, the title goes over the image, which I really like. It's just so simple, but it comes in so handy for arranging content like this. And we can also say that there's like a variation of different heading and paragraph styles here, which is another massively important thing to keep in mind in any form of design, especially long form sales pages. You really need to be switching up the fonts and the headings to like give some visual interest, hierarchy, and like break up the content. Because if this was all, even if that was the heading, and if this was all the same font, you would just be like, you just wouldn't even want to read it. You'd just be like, what the fuck am I even looking at? So by having like, this is a little bit bigger from here to there is all the same, and then we've got this one's a bit different, and then like some bold in some places. It just helps to like visually break it up and make it look less boring. And then we're back to, I think this is the same. Yeah, that's the same width. So we went like full width again, and then again with this section, like because it's not too long, I could bring it in to be a bit more narrow, and it's totally fine. Oh yeah, this is where I've got the icons. So we actually originally had these on the last version of the sales page, and we just wanted to keep them. So I really like them. They're really cool. Like I said, I don't think they look like normal, like boring, tacky icons that everyone uses for like programs and shit. Like they just look really cool. So yeah, it was fun to play around with those. And also this, like she says here, this is not a curriculum. And there's no specific order to these. So like technically we could take out the numbers if we wanted to, but I feel like this section could be a little bit more, this section didn't need to flow so much. it kind of was just like, just do this kind of crazy grid layout, which does look like a lot, but once you've got the icons and the lines and the white space, I think it's fine. And you can, obviously people that are very interested in this will read through them all, but you can kind of also just scroll through and read the headings and be like, okay, I've got an idea of like what's going on. Then we have this section. We can see there's like a really subtle, I probably would change this to the cream background, but there's a very subtle cream border on this section. So this layout, I wanted to be like a little bit creative with it, like keep it simple, but we have this like these little images throughout. So like I don't want to use an image for every single one of these points because it would just be too long and it would just not, I don't want to do that. I kind of wanted to keep it a bit random. Then we've got like what's included. This is a little testimonial section. We did changed all the testimonial photos to black and white to keep them consistent, because when you get testimonial photos from people, the colors and stuff can be all over the place and it can mess with the vibe of the page a little bit. So black and white kind of makes it feel just super slick and really clean. We've got the payment section, just a bit more info, bonus, some more testimonials. This section was kind of fun to play around with, like just a big image but still have the border. This is like kind of the about section. One thing I really liked was 7.1 Squarespace is that we can add these borders. They call it like an inset background, but I really like it. It's just like a very simple way to like give some variation between the sections and stuff. Some more little icons. So one thing I would recommend is that when you're building a sales page like this, maybe even an entire website or entire brand, but especially a sales page, like where there's going to be a lot of content in one page, and if you're using a lot of icons, like you want to keep the style similar. So I was very lucky in that this artist had an entire collection of these icons that were all pretty similar, so I could pull a lot from that. But like, for example, if all of these icons were in a completely different style to the other icons, it would just feel like shitty and not refined and like not as polished. So when you're using icons, like for example, I wouldn't use, like you can have icons that are just outlines like this, or you can also have icons that are like filled in. So it would be kind of like the reverse, where it's like a solid like stamp almost versus an outline. So like you would want to pick either one of those. Like you don't want to mix and match, or like if one of these had like a much thicker outline stroke, that would look weird. So you want to try and keep the resources consistent across the page. We have another payment section, some FAQ. This drop down block is a new feature within Squarespace, which is really handy because it obviously just compacts all of this really well. And yeah, so that's the sales page. I mean, this whole like sales page design is an art in itself, and I'm sure I could make an entire workshop on that in itself, but I thought that would be a good one to kind of start with, just to like go over a few design features and thoughts as I was doing it and stuff. So yeah, that's that one. And then I also did this website for Kelly Howard. She is an interior designer. She's a legend. It was so awesome working on this project. Similar to Hayley's, like, Kelle obviously has a bajillion photos of her work, and the photos are amazing. Like, that's anytime someone has like a really solid set of photos that I can work with, it's like hands down a yes, because it's just such an important part of design for me. So yeah, we worked on her website design. So one thing we talked about with the homepage, at least, like, I think I tried a couple layouts that had some text in this top section. And I think we really wanted to use this image, but nothing worked. Like, any way that I put text over the top, it just didn't work, because there's obviously a lot going on in this photo. And whatever I put over the top, it just felt like it was too much. And like, the photo in itself was amazing. So then we just decided, like, you know what, let's just do a full screen, just full photo. And then the text is down here once you scroll down. So originally, like, this text was like above this photo, but we just decided that this photo was too good, it can speak for itself, and then you can scroll down and there's the text there. So we used like some really simple layers in this branding, and we used this arch image shape in a few places. I also did a bit of handwriting around the place, similar to, like I was saying with Hayley's. I think it just looks cool. It makes a bit more of an impact than just the normal font. It is my handwriting, so it does get a little bit more difficult when clients want like updates and stuff. That's a different story, I guess, but I think it really does make a difference. So we're just on the home page. Then we have this little gallery of photos. Like, anytime, like, this is obviously what she does for a job too. Like, this is her business. So we want to like showcase the photography as much as possible, because that says everything. Like, the design is kind of there just to like bring it all together and like support her work, but like the photography is like, that's where it's at, and it's obviously amazing. You can also see like this arch shape is like in her work, or this is, I think these are all of her house. But yeah, that was kind of cool too. Then we did have some really simple layers like this, which I really love doing. So like this photo in the background down the bottom was just like one she sent me. And then just have like the white at the top. So it's like really simple, but it just adds like a little bit more depth, and it just makes it so much more interesting than if this was just like a flat image, right? Also just having some like textures and big oversized handwriting in the background is really cool. Some more handwriting. This is a collaboration she did with Project X, which I really wanted to highlight. So I played with a few different layouts for this, but I ended up going with like this kind of full width like header, and then we put at the bottom like see the gallery below, because we want to make it obvious, and then we've got the gallery of the pieces here, which again, just like the photography says everything you need to know about her work, really. You can also see, like, even just by now, just from this page, like you can see how much the website is a reflection of the style of her work as well. Like, it's very clean, neutral. I forget what we called it. Let me go. I know we did something on the about page. Raw coastal luxe. That's the vibe she's going for. So you can see that in her work. So like the whole website design, it was like that's the same vibe I want to go for on the website, right? Like to support her work. I think that was pretty much it on the homepage. I probably won't go through like every single page in detail. yeah, that was pretty much it. And then we have the footer. I think the footer design, I think we originally had like everything within one section, and like everything had this dark red border, which I don't think she loved it, and we couldn't figure out what the deal was. But then I realized that we kind of need to split the border, because maybe I think there was just too much of this dark earthy red. So that was one thing we played around with, just like split the border in two, really, with like Instagram and then other shit down the bottom. I'll go to the About page, because I do really like the About page. Like, again, this layout of the header section is really simple, but it's just really simple layers. Like, it's just 2 images in the background with this handwriting, and then the same style as that image on the homepage. Just like really simple layers, but like it's just super clean, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting, right? Then in some spots I've got underlined text, which kind of just, again, breaks it up so it doesn't all look the same. Just more layers, like using as much photography as I could, to be honest, like everywhere. Like little custom images like this with the little border and like the little text and little details are like what make up the full design, and what makes it feel really clean is like all the tiny little things that you don't really notice. That's what makes it interesting. Yeah, and even stuff like this, like when there's photos to use, like I want to use them. So like just having big sections like this isn't a gallery or anything. It's just like solid photos that I want to highlight, and just having it as like a big section by itself. Oops. Behind the brand, this was a sales page we did for her program. That helps interior designers start their own business. So this is a pretty simple sales page, like compared to Hayley's one, it's a lot shorter. But again, it still is a lot of content that you have to organize and make it interesting and make it flow so people want to read it, and like it tells them exactly what they're going to get and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's all very much like the same kind of vibe. Like once you've got the style down and like a few little design features, like these layers of photos and stuff, like it's pretty easy to start to pull together a whole website like this. I think these might have changed a little bit since I designed it. I think we used photos originally, maybe. Yeah. Just like having her little icon to like separate all of those points and make it a bit more interesting. So yeah, obviously that sales page is way smaller than Hayley's, but it's still everything there, just like laid out, separated into sections, like make it super clean and easy to understand. Yeah, so then this is the for clients page for people who want to work with her. This was another little feature. This was actually pulled from, some of these layouts are pulled from one of my template bundles. So we kind of like used that as a bit of a base and then customized it. So, I mean, obviously this photo strip is kind of like a film photo strip. That's where like the inspo came from. It's obviously not meant to look like that, but I just really love the layout of like these vertical images with like the squares and like the little text. I just thought it looks cool. this is a pretty easy way to like have, if you want to have background images and you need to read text over the top, you can like just add like a color over the top. This is actually a setting you can do within Squarespace. But you can do it in any design program. Just add like a rectangle over the top and like fill in with the color and play around with the opacity. Because if this image didn't have any color over the top, this text would be pretty hard to read, and that's why I did that. So you can still see the image, and it's not too detailed that it's hard to read the text. It just makes it more interesting, gives it some texture and stuff. And then, yeah, we have another gallery because this is a work with her page. So we want to just highlight all of her work as much as possible. But yeah, that's kind of, I think, where I'll leave it for this one because the other pages are pretty similar and pretty simple. So yeah, hopefully that was kind of interesting to go over some websites I've designed. Maybe in the future I'll make some more like work with me, like as I'm actually doing it for the first time. But yeah, hopefully that was chill and maybe you learned a couple things or just saw something that maybe you want to try or whatever. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there. And if you like videos like this, definitely subscribe because this is the kind of shit I love doing, and I have a few other ones on my channel if you want to check them out, just like similar design stuff. And yeah, see you soon.